Hey, third graders, Mrs. Avey here. I hope you all had a fabulous spring break. Welcome back to virtual learning. We are starting off with continuing thinking about quadrilaterals. We have been working on being able to identify different attributes of all these different quadrilaterals, and today is going to be just like that. I have a couple riddles that I want you to solve and see if you can figure out which shapes I am thinking about when I go through and describe the attributes of them. Just like always, we're starting off with some mental math to get us started. So go ahead and to do this on a scratch sheet of paper, on the back of one of your books, covers, whatever you've got there. So pause the video and we will go over this at the end, just like we have been in the past. So go ahead, pause your video, and then come back to us when you are ready to go. Okay, so one thing I need you to do before we get started is, if you are able to, I need you to print something off for me. You will be able to find this piece of paper where your assignment notebook is. So this is what your assignment notebook kind of looks like, where it tells you what you have to do for the day. Right here, number one, if you're able to print this page off, click the link. It's called Quadrilateral Cards, and I want you to click that, and it'll open up the cards here for you. So if you can print this off, that would be a huge help. And then you're gonna just cut on the dotted lines to cut these shapes out. If you cannot print off anything, that's okay. I would like for you to try to find a sheet of paper and draw all of the shapes that you see here, and then cut them out so that you can still sort the shapes with me as we go about our lesson for today. So pause this video, print off the quadrilateral cards or create your cards, and then come back to this video when you are ready to go. Okay, so you have printed your cards and cut them out, or you've drawn out your shapes and cut them out. I have done the same online. So here you can see that I kind of put them in categories. I have rectangles A and B together, trapezoids A and B, squares A, B, C, rhombus, quadrilaterals A, B, C, D, E, and parallelograms A and B. I just did that so it'll make this a little bit easier for me to sort through what my shapes are. So today's lesson is called Guess My Quadrilateral. And what you're going to be doing is I'm going to say some riddles, and you are going to have to sort your shapes to try to figure out what shape I am looking at. Okay, so it's a little bit like you're going to try to read my mind. I have the riddle, and let's do the first riddle together. Okay, so try to split my screen here for you. All right, so my first riddle is, my quadrilateral has two pairs of parallel sides. So I'm going to go through all these shapes, and if it does have two pairs of parallel sides, I'm going to start making a pile over here. And if it does not have two pairs of parallel sides, I'm going to put it over here. So our rectangles, does it have two pairs of parallel sides? Yes, it does. The top is one pair and the sides are a pair. So both of them are going to stay there. Let's go to my trapezoids. My trapezoid A, it has the top and bottom, but the sides are not parallel. So I'm going to then move that off to the side. Trapezoid B, the top and bottom are parallel, the sides are not parallel. So that's going to go over here. Parallelogram. Well, that is the exact definition of what a parallelogram is. You need two pairs of parallel sides. So I'm going to bring my parallelograms together. So far, all of these work. Squares. Do I have two pairs of parallel sides? Yes, I do. So I'm going to move them over to the yes, it does. This is the yes, it does here. My rhombus, does this have two pairs of parallel sides? Yes, it does. These are parallel and then these ones are parallel. So I'll bring them over here. All right, off to my quadrilaterals. Do these have parallel sides? It does not. How about this guy here? No, it doesn't. This one here? No. This one? No. And this one does not. So I'm going to kind of ignore all the ones down here right now because they do not match this first clue that I have given you. So you have also printed off and cut apart these cards. So I'm hoping that in front of your Chromebook, you have two piles. You have the shapes that do fit that clue and then the shapes that do not fit that clue. All right, so if you need to pause and start to rearrange your shapes right now, go ahead and do that. Press play when you're ready to go. Off to our next clue. So again, I'm only working with the shapes that I know match the first clue. My quadrilateral has 4 congruent sides. Do we remember what congruent means? Congruent is, I know it's on that those yellow pieces of paper with the vocabulary cards that are on there. So take that out and see if you can find the word congruent and find out what that means. Congruent means that it is the same size and shape. So I'm looking for something that is the same sides and the same shape. So a rectangle, do all of the sides, are they the same? They are not. So I need 4 sides that are the same. So I'm going to put that over here. That does not match. This one does not match. Does this parallelogram A have 4 congruent sides? No, it does not. Ooh, let me get back over there. This one does not have 4 congruent sides. Does this rhombus? Yes, they are all the same size. Square, that's exactly what the definition of a square is having 4 congruent sides. So they're all going to stay here. You guys are getting closer to figuring out which shape I have in my mind. It's going to be one of these 4. So pause right now and sort yours if you need to, and then come back when you are ready. Okay, off to clue number 3 we go. My quadrilateral has 4 right angles. A right angle means it is at 90 degrees. And even though this square is turned sideways a little bit, it's tilted, I know that a square has to have 4 right angles. Rhombus has 2 obtuse angles and 2 acute angles. So I'm going to move that over to my pile here. So this brings it down to 3 squares. One of these squares is the shape that I am thinking of. Okay, so this last clue that I'm going to give you, this last clue here is going to tell you which of the exact squares I have. Are we ready? Okay. Clue number 4, my quadrilateral has an area that is just a little more than 1 square inch. So when I look at these, I know this one is way too small for an inch. That means that each side has to be an inch long. I know that that is not right. That's right here. Ooh, these are pretty close, but again, when I look at this one, I think that it's too small for an inch. So that leaves me with square C. That I think the inside, the area is 1 square inch. Did you end up with square C also when you were sorting along with me? I hope so, because that is the quadrilateral that I was thinking of. Nice job, everyone. So what I want you to do now is I want you to put your shapes back together for me, and I want to give you another riddle, okay? So I'm going to try to quickly sort them just back so I can see them all again. That'll make it a lot easier for me to find later. They might not be in order, but then at least I know, like, oh, these are all my quadrilaterals. Here's my trapezoid, trapezoid. All right, and we're ready to roll. So pay attention to how these riddles are written, because in your lesson for tomorrow, you are going to be coming up with 4 clues, and you'll be giving those clues to your teacher, and we're going to be trying to figure out what shape you came up with. We need your clues to be specific, but not too specific where we can figure it out in the first 1 or 2 clues, okay? So just keep that in mind as we're moving forward in our next riddle, because you're going to be doing this next lesson, which is tomorrow. All right, riddle number 2. I'm not going to sort of along with you until maybe about halfway through, and then we'll stop and talk. So I want to give you time to be able to figure it out on your own. So clue number 1, my quadrilateral is not a parallelogram. Remember that any quadrilateral with 2 pairs of parallel sides is a parallelogram. So this clue is saying that my quadrilateral is not a parallelogram. Pause right here. Go ahead and sort what is a parallelogram and what is not. Remember, we want to look only at the ones that are not parallelograms. Okay. Now that you're back, here's your second clue. Remember, I'm not going to sort quite with you yet. I want to give you a chance to do it on your own. Clue number 2, my quadrilateral has exactly 1 pair of parallel sides. Has 1 pair of parallel sides. Pause right here, keep sorting. Remember, you're only looking at the ones that match the first and second clue. Now that you're back, here's our third clue. My quadrilateral has more than 1 type of angle. My quadrilateral has more than 1 type of angle. Let's see, there could be right angles, there could be obtuse angles, there could be acute angles. Those are 3 types that it might have, and it has more than 1 of them. So pause right here and sort through finding out which shape we might have. We should be getting closer to having just a couple of them left together. And our last clue, my quadrilateral has exactly 2 right angles. So you should be able to have figured out what quadrilateral I am thinking of. Let's go over these together and check our work, okay? So, clue number 1, my quadrilateral is not a parallelogram. Remember that any quadrilateral with 2 pairs of parallel sides is a parallelogram. So I want to find out the ones that are not parallelograms. Well, clearly my parallelograms over here are, so I do not want them in my sort. I want the things that are not parallelograms. This one is definitely not a parallelogram. This one is not a parallelogram. This one is not a parallelogram. Remember, a parallelogram is two pairs of parallel sides. Rectangles, the tops and the sides are parallel. So I want to get rid of them. Even though their name is rectangle, they are still technically a parallelogram. So I want to get my squares. Those are parallelograms. The tops and bottom are parallel and the sides are parallel. I do not want those. Okay, this rhombus right here has two sides that are parallel to each other. So that's not going to work. The trapezoid, they only have one set of parallel lines, the top and the bottom. So that one is not a parallelogram. So I'm going to keep them. I want to keep looking at those guys. Okay, so I'm going to ignore my shapes that are down in the bottom, and I want to look at only the ones on the top here for my next clue. My next clue is my quadrilateral has exactly one pair of parallel sides. One pair of parallel sides. Does quadrilateral D have any parallel sides? No. Bring him down here. How about quadrilateral A? No parallel sides. That's not going to work. This one does not have any parallel sides. Does not have any parallel sides. I want one pair, exactly one pair parallel lines. So that leaves me with trapezoid A and trapezoid B. It's got to be one of these two. All right, let's see. Clue 3. Now remember, we have 4 clues, so we'll see what clue 3 brings us. My quadrilateral has more than one type of angle. So let's look at trapezoid B. Does it have more than one type? Yes. The bottom has acute angles and the top are obtuse. So that one matches. That one works. Trapezoid A, we have our right angles here. We have an obtuse angle up here, and we have acute down here. So they have all 3. So either one of them will still work. So I'm not going to be able to figure out what it is yet. We got to move on to clue number 4. Are we ready for the big reveal? Let's see if the one you got matches what I got. My quadrilateral has exactly 2 right angles. Does trapezoid B have 2 right angles? It does not. So trapezoid A is the shape I was thinking of. Hopefully that's what you ended up when you sorted your shapes the first time around. Should we give this another try for one more shape here? Okay, so I'm going to try to move this guy to my next set of clues here. Excellent. Fabulous. Okay, here we are. Again, I'm going to just quickly sort my shapes back together so it's easier for me to see. I'm just putting my quadrilaterals together, my trapezoids together, my squares. You guys can be doing the same thing with yours. Excellent. Okay. All right, we are on to our third riddle here. Go again, I'm not going to do it with you the first time around. I want you to try to figure out how to sort these and see if you can come up with the shape that I am thinking of. This will be our last riddle. So, best of luck to you. Okay, number 1. My quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Remember that any quadrilateral with 2 pairs of parallel sides is a parallelogram. So this time we do want a parallelogram. And yes, it is going to be more than just these 2 shapes that are labeled parallelogram. Remember, other shapes have 2 sets of parallel lines. Pause right here and go ahead and sort your shapes and then play when you are ready. Number 2, my quadrilateral does not have any line segments that are perpendicular to each other. Ooh, there's a lot of good vocabulary there. A line segment means that it ends at a corner and on both sides of the line. So pretty much saying that it makes a vertice. And then perpendicular is where it comes together at a 90-degree angle. So perpendicular means that two lines are coming together to make a 90-degree angle. This quadrilateral, however, does not have any lines that are perpendicular. So go ahead and sort your shapes, pause the video, and come back when you're ready. Number 3, my quadrilateral does not have 4 congruent sides. It does not have 4 congruent sides. We should be getting closer to finding out what shape I'm thinking of. You should be down to just a couple shapes left. And the last clue, my quadrilateral is almost 2 centimeters high. 2 centimeters high. I know that'll be a little tricky to figure out on a Chromebook, but just try your best. 2 centimeters. Take a look at a ruler. See what you can figure out. Okay, let's go through it together. Hopefully you figured out what shape I'm thinking of. Clue number 1, my quadrilateral is a parallelogram. Remember that any quadrilateral with 2 pairs of parallel sides is a parallelogram. Okay, so rectangles are parallelograms. They have 2 sets of parallel sides. Squares, those are all parallelograms as well. Top and bottom, side and side are parallel. And of course, our parallelograms are parallel, have parallel sides. Our rhombus here is a parallelogram because it has the sides here and these sides here that are parallel to each other. Trapezoid does not work because it only has the top and bottom. And let's see, quadrilateral A does not have any parallel sides. E, there are not any parallel sides. No parallel sides in any of these quadrilaterals here. So I'm only going to be working with the ones at the top here. Next clue. My quadrilateral does not have any line segments that are perpendicular to each other. Remember, perpendicular makes a 90-degree angle. So that would be like our squares. Our squares all have right angles and 90-degree angles. Those mean the same thing. Okay. A rhombus does not have 90-degree angles, and neither do our parallelograms. So I'm going to keep looking at those 3 shapes as we figure out clue number 3. My quadrilateral does not have 4 congruent sides. Congruent means that they are the same length. So looking at our parallelograms, all of these sides, well, 2 of the sides, they are different lengths. This rhombus one has 4 that are the same, and we want a shape that does not have congruent sides. So that one does not work. I'm down to my 2 parallelograms. Let's see, which one am I thinking of? And this one is almost 2 centimeters high. This one is way smaller than 2 centimeters. So that leaves me with parallelogram B as the shape that I was thinking of. All right, boys and girls, so that is all I have for our lesson today. Thank you for sorting your shapes. Before I let you go, we do need to figure out those math problems that I put up at the beginning of our lesson. So let's go over these together, okay? We have to figure out if this statement here is true or false. 3/4 is greater than 3/6. Well, right now I'm thinking 3/6. I know that is equivalent to a half, right? So if I know this is a half, 3/4, well, 2/4 is a half. So this one's going to be bigger. So that means that my answer is true. 3/4 is greater than 3/6. All right, and then 5/8 is less than 2/4. Again, I'm going to be looking at these numbers. 2/4, what is that equivalent to? That's equivalent to a half. 5/8, what would be half of 8? Well, that would only be 4/8. So I know that this one is bigger than a half. So that means that this statement is false. What fraction would make this statement true? So 1/3 is equal to, I just need an equivalent fraction here. So let's see, 1/3, that could be 2/6. I wonder how many others were able to come up with. Nice. Okay, here we just have to draw parallel lines. So we just talked a whole bunch of parallel lines. That's not quite the straight line I was looking for. So I'm going to just put in some parallel lines here. That would work. Intersecting lines. So those are not at 90-degree angles. They just intersect, they cross each other. And perpendicular is when it happens to be at 90 degrees. So it looks something like that. Okay, and on to our story problem. Mrs. Johnson was having lunch with 3 groups of 3rd graders. Each group had 6 students in it. She noticed that in each group, half the students picked chicken patty for lunch and the other half picked cheeseburgers. How many students ate each kind of lunch? So I'm going to draw this one out. Help me see what's going on. So Mrs. Johnson was having lunch with 3 groups of 3rd graders. 2, 3. Each group had 6 students in it. Okay. She noticed that in each group, half of the students, so this half right here, 3, had chicken patty, and then the other half, these 3, had cheeseburgers. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to split each one. So now it's 3s and 3s. So that leaves me with this half is chicken patty, chicken patty, chicken patty. 3 plus 3 plus 3, that gives me 9 chicken patties. And then the others, 3 plus 3 plus 3, is 9 cheeseburgers. So how many students ate each kind of lunch? We have 9 chicken patties and we have 9 cheeseburgers.